Welcome to the TomorrowZone Catalyst Podcast. I'm Deborah Reuben, and today the lovely and talented Alissa Bartlett will be hosting our show. She is our podcast producer and a curious question asker, and I'm really excited to see what happens in this episode. This is the first episode in a series that we're going to be doing on leading AI adoption, featuring bold leaders from equipment finance and beyond who are making AI adoption real. They're not just talking about it, but they're taking action to get traction in their organizations. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alissa. On with the show.
Everyone's talking about AI, but most conversations stay stuck in the clouds. Abstract ideas, jargon, and overwhelm. What if we shifted the focus? What if you didn't have to be a tech expert to make AI work for you? In this episode, we're diving into how to shift the AI conversation from hype to how, using structured discovery to uncover high-value opportunities hidden in plain sight. Get ready to go treasure hunting. With decades of experience guiding equipment finance leaders through change, Deb brings real-world insights into how organizations can explore AI without getting lost in the buzz. Today, we will be discussing our AI workshop approach that leverages components of the AI design sprint, a methodology developed by our friends at 33A. Welcome, Deb.
Thanks, Alissa. Let's make awesome happen.
So, Deb, what first inspired you to get trained in 33A's AI design sprint? And why is opportunity mapping such a key part of it?
I follow a lot of geeky people on social media. And so I ran into somebody who was using the methodology and talking about the great impact and results that they were getting by gamifying the process of exploring what's possible with AI. And I was intrigued because a lot of what we do is visual facilitation. We do a lot of workshop facilitation. And a big part of TomorrowZone is about opening your eyes to new possibilities so that you can shape the future rather than being surprised by it. And so I dove in, I checked it out, found out that I could get, certified by going through was a pretty intense training process with our friends in Europe who developed the methodology. But it was really cool because I was already familiar with design thinking methodology. We had led an industry-wide design thinking challenge a few years ago, and I really loved the design thinking methodology. But when I saw that somebody had created the design thinking methodology, kind of combined with a Google Sprint type methodology, specific to helping non-technical people learn about AI and connect it to how they could use it in their business. I'm like, oh my gosh, who doesn't want that? That's what inspired me to get involved. I kind of want to turn it over to you because you are also certified in the methodology, Alissa. I'd love to know what inspired you to get involved in it.
I think the biggest thing that inspired me was that it was AI specifically for non-technical people. And being a person myself who's always straddled the two worlds between technical and non-technical, I love opportunities to bridge those two worlds. And as you know, Deb, I'm interested in facilitation and doing more with that. And so this seemed like a good way to get certified in something that's kind of a lasting methodology that's helpful in a variety of different circumstances.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I really liked. You had asked about the AI opportunity mapping specifically and what I like about that. And the thing I really love about it is that it gives you a way to bring structure to guided exploration. We are so often caught up in the day-to-day that we don't make time to get away and think about what's possible now, but also what's next. And I noticed in a lot of the different forums that I've been involved in, especially in the equipment finance industry, there are a lot of people talking about AI. There's a lot of hype. And for years, the approach had been, okay, well, let's just dazzle everybody with a bunch of buzzwords about, how AI works. And I would look out into the audience, as these very smart people, very well-meaning, spouting off a bunch of words like machine learning and neural networks and this and that, and I'd be seeing the executives' eyes glaze over, and so I'm like, well, how do we reach people and help them really understand what this is about? Because this isn't an app. It's not a platform. It's a whole branch of computer science that we're talking about with great impact and implications for humanity and business. And it's driving advancement in every category of technology these days. And so, I think we need a way that's easy for people to understand. And what I love about the opportunity mapping part of this methodology is we're actually laying out your organization's structure and we're focusing first on your business. Where are the pain points? Where are the value creators? What are your goals? And taking a look at, first of all, where are there problems in your organization that would be valuable to solve if we solve them? And then we explore what's possible with AI. And then we actually immediately start to apply what we're learning and connect the dots between what can AI do and what could AI do for you to solve those problems that you just identified together as a team. So we're building alignment, we're building a shared understanding of where the problems are, but we're also creating space for business people to explore and learn through examples and use cases and demos, not through technical jargon. And I think that that's the thing that for me really clicked because it's such a better experience for the learner. And it creates a space for a really engaged approach to learning that sticks.
So what are you noticing right now with leaders who want to explore AI but aren't sure where to start?
I think that it's just like any aspect of humanity. There's such a wide spectrum of adoption, curiosity, commitment to actually take action to explore AI. We've been playing with AI tools since 2016, and it's always been this continual cycle of curiosity. What if, and knowing that it involves experimentation. I have learned the most, not from reading about AI, but from taking action and actually taking a little problem that I want to solve, starting with something that's lower stakes, but asking, how could AI help me with this? In the past, I used to ask, okay, I would identify a problem or a process, and I'm like, okay, I wish I didn't have to do this process. And I would ask myself, I wonder if there's an AI for that. And back in the day, it was harder to find AI solutions. It wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Since ChatGPT burst onto the scene in November of 2022, that whole game has changed. But the questions are still the same. How might AI help me with this? And then I actually try it. But a big part of being able to ask that question and get from asking the question, can I help me with this, to actually getting some action and traction on doing something with AI, the space in between, the thing that often we're missing is we're not quite sure what it's capable of. And so going back and forth between continually learning, and I think this is an area where we're never going to stop learning because it's advancing so fast. Learning what are the skills of AI, and then always keeping an eye on as I'm working through things. I wonder if AI could help me with this, because I know that AI can find and organize information. AI can read, because I know what it can do, then I can start to pull on those skills to help me solve problems. I've heard it said that creativity is connecting dots. And if you don't want to end up with the same old ideas, you got to get some new dots. And so one of the challenges is knowing where to start. And it starts with getting familiar with what AI can do, but then immediately taking action to connect the dots between what it can do and what it can do for you. So I think that this workshop experience is a really great way to get started with that in a low stakes environment that gives people a chance to start to really understand what's possible and explore, but also connect the dots and not have to worry, oh, what if I break everything in the company if I do this thing with AI? It helps people to have a more courageous start to that exploration.
And can you tell us more? How does the AI opportunity mapping process help non-technical teams uncover real valuable use cases?
It's a really fun process. Not everything in business has to be a drudge, And so one of the things that really helps is we create focus space. So we actually just went through this. We're almost done with a workshop series that we're doing with an equipment finance company. A lot of really smart leaders. And one of the goals was, how can we get ideation about innovation happening with the business team who's closest to where those challenges are and not just coming out of IT? How can we work together and help them understand what's possible and what's next, and then be a part of building that together? And so we took them through this process as a part of, really developing those innovation muscles. And it's been pretty exciting. So one of the things that makes it really fun is it's a gamified experience. So, and you're familiar with these, but we have these cards from our friends at 33A, kind of blurry on my camera, but you can see they're pretty colorful. Each of those colors is a different category of AI capabilities. And then within each of those categories, each card is a different AI skill. And then in the back of the card is a list of examples and use cases and an explanation that doesn't use a bunch of techno babble. The technobabble, the technical jargon is the thing that kind of starts to turn people off. It can be intimidating. And so we're actually really just focusing in on learning what are the skills and superpowers of AI and what does it look like when those skills are being used. And so we learn by looking at examples of how other companies are using AI. And we try to, a lot of the work we do is in equipment finance. But the great thing about this is we're looking at a lot of examples that are from outside of equipment finance. And that sparks new thinking and it sparks new ideas of, oh, well, if they're doing that in insurance, I wonder what could be possible for us in equipment leasing and finance. And so it like kind of fires up your brain in a new way. And then we're doing this in a virtual environment. We leverage Mural. It's a digital whiteboard, but we've built this experience into Mural, leveraging 33A's method and their cards. And so we've got this little card matching game going on as we're looking at where are the pain points in your business. And then we're learning about AI step by step in a structured environment. We're opening their eyes to what's possible, but then we're immediately applying what we're learning to, well, what could that mean specifically to our business? And it was pretty exciting. The big thing is creating that dedicated space for people to step away from day to day, to step away from the fires of their day-to-day work and actually focus in and really lean into learning something new. And it's pretty fun to see the ideas that they come up with and just how fast, as we're going through the categories, we see them start to actually gain momentum in their ability to connect the dots between AI capabilities and solving real problems in their business. We did it in less than 3 hours. And this team of 6 cross-functional team members generated about 175 relevant use cases for the equipment finance back office.
Wow, that's a lot.
Think about that. Less than 3 hours. But it's because they've got, focus and guided structure for that creative exploration. And we've created the conditions and we're actually teaching them how to come up with innovative ideas. Because, you're working in the back office. There is a lot of problem solving day to day, but there's also a lot of repetitive work. This isn't the mold that you're in on a day-to-day basis, but now we're actually showing them how to bring that thinking in and connect the dots between what's possible and what does that mean for you? And I think that's where the magic is. And it's pretty exciting. Some of the comments that we hear coming out of these sessions, my brain is on fire, and that, in the best sort of way. I never knew there were so many opportunities. We hear that all the time. Once they start to explore what's possible, it really lights them on fire. I did this with a team of folks, and one of them was actually in a role that she was leading innovation. And she said, I am in the innovation business, and I was blown away at how my creativity skyrocketed because of this structured approach. And so, there is a lot of freedom and creativity that can come within a structured environment. And so I think that it's pretty awesome, the results that we can see coming out of an experience like this. It's very different from what people do day to day.
And what role does mindset play in moving from AI confusion to AI action?
Yeah, a lot. I've heard it said, and in a whole different context, 80% is mindset and the rest is mindset. I think that's pretty applicable in this world as well. When it comes to learning AI and learning how to apply AI, a lot of it is mindset. First of all, you have to believe that you can learn this. You have to have a growth mindset about it. And so it's not the same as other software tools where, the tool is pretty static. In the past, we would get a software tool, we would read a manual, and, it was pretty certain that, what you learned from that approach would last for quite a while. This is a very fast moving space, and it requires curiosity. It also requires collaboration, a willingness to explore and iteate. And so if you're in a mindset of, this is about getting the right answer. It's, when we're talking about especially generative AI, a lot of the popular LLMs, large language models that people are working with, examples are, ChatGPT or Claude, Perplexity, Copilot if you're a Microsoft shop. These are interfaces that you can chat and have a conversation with the AI. And a lot of folks are using it as an answer machine, but actually it's not an answering machine. It's actually a thought partner and a collaborative tool. That's where curiosity really comes in handy, because the better your questions, the better the outcomes. And, and it's a iterative, conversational approach. And that's one of the beauties of the new tools that are so accessible today. The interface is conversation. We know how to have conversations. And so now it's about, how do you structure that conversation with an AI to get the best outcomes? I think that's a really important part of it. And one of the things we've talked about in our team is, where do we invite AI to the table and have AI in the loop in the things that we're doing, but we still remain the thought leader, and AI is just a thought partner. I know that you are doing a lot to collaborate with AI, even in the way that you are producing and managing our podcast at TomorrowZone. I'd love to know from you, what is a mindset that you have found to be helpful as you were getting into using AI for yourself?
Yeah, so we have several custom-built GPTs that we use during our podcast process, both before the episode happens and then post-production. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about curiosity, that's just the biggest thing. What if I ask a question this way? What if I ask it a different way? Will I get a different result? Sometimes we have to go back and forth and, like you said, have that conversation with the GPTs to really tease out the best outcome. So I think, having a curiosity mindset when approaching these new technologies is really key, because they're so new and they're constantly changing. ChatGPT 5.0 just came out, right? And a lot of things are different. Some people are lamenting things that were lost with ChatGPT 4, and others are, excited about the new things that are coming their way with ChatGPT 5. So,
yeah,
it's constantly changing. So you have to keep your curiosity engine going.
But also, I think you have to be open to continuous learning as well, because it's changing so fast. You mentioned that, some folks are lamenting what was lost with ChatGPT 5, as well as what we're gaining with this change. And that's something I've been going through. I've been collaborating with it a lot lately, and I've noticed a big difference. I'm curious if you're seeing this, but it seems like it's kind of like its working memory is different.
Mm-hmm.
It starts to, you can have a conversation with it for quite a while, and then it starts to lose the context faster than before.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm working with, almost like if you were working with somebody that had a short-term memory issue.
Mm-hmm.
What were we talking about? But it has different long-term memory. So it's been and so it's like you're constantly adjusting, pivoting, flexing as these things are changing.
And for someone listening today, what's one small step they can take to begin exploring AI for their team?
I guess the biggest thing, of course, you could book a workshop with us and we could help you make time to go through and explore, get curious, and get fired up about what's possible and relevant to your business. But this is something I've been talking to a lot of leaders about. The biggest thing I keep coming back to, and this is a TomorrowZone principle, you have to make space for it. This is about exploring the art of the possible and learning and taking time away from the day-to-day to get inspired and to do something new. And so I think like the one small step to get started, commit to make time to step away from your day-to-day and get into what we call the Tomorrow Zone, where you have the freedom and the focus to consider those future possibilities and to explore and experiment. And then, if you're not quite sure what to do within that focused time, your starting point is just a quick web search away. Get onto one of the tools. You can get onto ChatGPT through OpenAI for free and try a low stakes experiment. Maybe you're just planning an itinerary for a dream vacation, but start to play with it. And if you're unsure how to get started, ask it. I want to plan a dream vacation. How do I best use this tool to help me do that? And the AI will actually instruct you how to use the AI. The bar is so low these days to get started.
Yeah, it's really great. And even just when you do a Google search, there's most oftentimes an AI summary at the top of the search. And I've been diving into that. I've been appreciating those summaries.
Oh yeah, it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
Also a little signal of how search is probably changing for the future.
Yeah, indeed. So one final question. There's a myth out there that you need to be a tech expert to explore AI. And I just want to know what you think of that.
Yeah, I think that's a total myth. You don't have to be a tech expert to explore AI. And we've got people on our own team that don't have a technical background that are really rocking AI. Jenica's a great example of that. She comes from a clinical therapy background, not technology, and she's building custom GPTs, but she's really great at asking questions. And so I think that the truth is, if you want to explore AI, you don't have to be a tech expert. You need curiosity, a little bit of structure, and sometimes set aside to actually take action. That's the best way to get started and to get into learning this.
So if you're leading a team, navigating change, or wondering how to make sense of the AI buzz, don't go it alone. Our AI workshop experience was made for you. It's time to stop asking, what is AI, and start discovering, what can AI do for us? Visit TomorrowZone.io to learn how we can help you map the way forward. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, stay curious and choose to make awesome happen.